Welcome to another edition of Smalltalk for You. This morning we're going to continue with the Seaside tutorial and we're going to add a menu rendering piece to our application. Previously we added the list component and the menu component. We got the list stuff rendering the last time we looked at this, but we need a menu, and the menu we're going to have is to show today's posts and all previous posts. So the first thing we need to do is go back to our blog menu view, and we need to make sure the entries is an ordered collection. As you might recall, in the class definition we have an entries variable, so what we want is to make that sure it's an ordered collection. Now, having done that, we also need to go ahead and add a way to add entries. So in the same class we're going to have this add entry, so we're going to be able to add menu items. And you can think of this as working very much the way a menu works in a GUI application. We're going to add an entry named and with an action block, so when you click the label, something happens. That's going to end up becoming an href, meaning a link in the application. So with that out of the way, what we now need to do is we now need to go back to the root view, the server view here, and we need to go to its initialize method, and we're going to initialize the menu component. And the reason we're going to do this is we need to set up those entries. Let's go look at that. And in here we're going to add an entry called all posts with the action self all posts, and today's post with today's post. Now that implies some level of filtering. So let's go ahead and look at that. So we have all posts, which just says list component set the post filter to all posts, and today's post set today's post filter to today's posts. So again, we need to go back to the list component which we've made responsible for setting these filters. And if we go to the class definition, you see I've added a filter block, and I've added accessing methods for that as well. Now to see how that's set up, what we want to do is go to the initialize, and I'm setting the initial filter to all posts. So let's go to filtering and take a look at how that looks. Filter block is blog storage default all posts, so we just have posts, so everything in there, by default the filter is going to be everything. If on the other hand you want to set it to today's post, we say, well, default post select each timestamp as date equals date today. So we're going to filter that, and of course you can add sorting here to have different orders come in as well. So you can see that you can set these filters any way you want. I've set up two very simple ones. You can have additional filters to do anything you want, and you might want to play with that to see what kinds of other things you could add to this. In any case, once I've done that, I need to go back to my server view, and I need to add sort of analogous things here so that I tell the thing which filter to set up based on what I do. And I now need to go into one more thing. I need to add this method here, children. This is very important in a Seaside application. Any component that isn't going to be called, meaning the call method in Seaside, we need to have an array where we have every component that the main application is going to know about. This is how the main application, the main view as it were, knows about every single thing down its children train down below, so that as you render things, it knows which other things to tell to render. So this is how we set all that up. Now, having gotten all of those pieces in place, let's go see how it looks. We'll go ahead and we'll bring up our browser, and you see I brought this up, and by default we're looking at these, but you notice up at top I've got these additional things here, and that's because in addition to having the list component render, I've gotten the menu component to render. So let's go ahead and take a look at what today's post does. And if I select that, it filters that down to this. If I go to all posts, it brings everything up. So you see that the way I've done this is to set it up so that I can filter based on some set of criteria, and I do that just by having my component be smart enough to know what to filter. So I have my component down here telling it to render these anchors, and then I have my list component paying attention to which one of those is selected by going in here to these filters, and that's just a block. So I'm using standard Smalltalk techniques and then taking advantage of them in a Seaside context to have the children components in the canvas render appropriately based on what I've done with my selections. So that's about it for today. Until next time, have fun with whatever Smalltalk you're using.